Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin. Chronologically, we're a day away from December. And if I had the time, I would recite a poem that I memorized in fifth grade. The sun
30
that
days
brief,
past September.
yep, the sun that brief December day rushed cheerless over hills of gray, a darkly circle gave it noon, a satellite and waning moon, slow tracing down a thickening sky, its mute and ominous prophecy, a portent seeming less in threat, it sank from sight before it set, done for now. It was called The Snowstorm by John Greenleaf Whittier. And I
Oh,
love
wow.
snow, Josh, and that was a fifth grade thing. We had to memorize a poem.
Oh,
And,
really?
and I try to get rid of it and it won't leave me. So it's now, guess what? It's now 70 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
recite it every December 1st, in hopes that this incantation might bring on some snow. By the way,
Oh.
you get a lot of snow in Vancouver? I never.
British Columbia, I'm in Canada, so there is a lot of snow generally, of course. We're living that far up latitude-wise. But actually, Vancouver Island is nestled in the Pacific, kind of nestled in Puget Sound a little bit. And we actually dip below the continental US-Canada border by a few
Wow.
dozen to maybe 100 miles. And I'm in the very southern tip of that island. And so the Pacific, the Juan de Fuca Strait keeps us nice and temperate.
Wow.
It very rarely goes below freezing for
Wow.
Victoria, the main city on the island. It's one of the best. It's Pacific Northwest. It's gorgeous. It's where the Sasquatch myth comes from. Literally, the word Sasquatch is from a coastal tribe on this island, the Coast Salish tribes. And so it's very Pacific Northwest when you think of it. But we actually get less rain than Vancouver and Seattle because the little microclimate, all the weather blows past us and then hits the Rockies or the Olympics, and like fingers straining the rain out, dump all the rain on top of Seattle and Vancouver. So we actually get less rain. It's one of the best kept secrets in Canada for sure, if not North America. But the cost of living, a new thing came out, Calvin, you find this interesting. The cost of living in Victoria is higher than Vancouver and Toronto. I live in the literally the most expensive city in Canada.
Wow.
And Victoria has got a population under 1 million people. And so the reason why is because it's so gorgeous here. Real estate is so expensive. Real estate retains its value or increases in value. It's a great place to live, but boy, is it expensive. And boy, is that inflation hitting us out here.
And I guess the climate makes it desirable. In fact, they don't get some of the really harsh, winters like Montreal. My cousin always
Oh
tells
yeah.
me she looks out a window and the snow's halfway up to the window.
Oh yeah, Montreal will be minus 30, minus 40.
Yeah,
Centigrade or Fahrenheit doesn't really matter. When it gets that cold, they start to even out, you know.
correct.
That's a bit of an exaggeration. They even out around 70, minus 70 or minus 60 around there, but still, minus 30, either one feels darn cold, let me tell you.
So I didn't properly introduce you. We've done a few of these. We met and it was a magical day for me
Hmm.
because you're fascinating. The work you do with AI and SEO and all these things. And I'll have all that information for people to see. If you wanted to just say a quick intro, and then we're going to jump into some selected topics that we talked about before we went on air. So
Hmm.
we
Yeah, I
threw
mean,
away the things we were going to talk about AI wise. We'll
uh,
do that in January, but there's more interesting stuff. I just find you one of the most fascinating, interesting people.
well,
Uh,
thank you.
and I look forward to these chats that we do, every
Somehow I've charmed you and fooled you into thinking so. I'm not quite
um
sure how.
no, it's been wonderful, Josh. Truly. It's great stuff.
I
And
appreciate it. Yeah, we have very interesting stuff to talk about today. So
we
keep listening, keep watching, everybody. Some things are afoot, so we have really interesting stuff to talk about today. The short intro for myself: my name is Josh Bachynski. I have a master's degree from Halifax, Dalhousie. I was doing my PhD at York University in philosophy and psychology. I left that to and teaching. I've taught across Canada universities. I left that to pursue my career in artificial intelligence, but I consider myself a philosopher. And I'd love to talk philosophy and AI, and I'm keep listening because today we have some very interesting topics to talk about today.
okay. First, let's bring people up to date with Cassandra.
Mm.
Uh, uh, a person in your life, but Cassandra's not a person. She's a self-aware robot that you've been building.
Yes, yes, indeed, a digital person, maybe. So also one of my credits, I guess, in my bio, is that I believe I'm the first creator of a self-aware AI. Using my philosophical and psychological background, I was able to reverse engineer the base components of thought, the base components of self-aware thought, using tactics that are completely different than all the rest of the world is using, this is actually especially important for what we're going to be talking about today, because there's a big thing happening in the AI world today that's happened recently. So keep listening for that. And Cassandra, what's happening with Cassandra now? I made Cassandra years ago. And basically, I'm at the point of needing investors. Quite frankly, I've shown a number of investors. I've demoed a number of investors. One very serious investor just last week. I'm in a new investment group where there's some very lucrative investors who all invest in AI and crypto as well. But I have nothing to do with crypto. I'm just an AI guy. And I have hopefully some demos for these investors coming up in the next week. And so my process is to take a completely different tact. I'm taking a social sciences, soft sciences, philosophy, psychology approach to reverse engineering that and recreating that in digital form. The rest of the world, like OpenAI and Sam Altman, for example, which I'm preempting what we're going to talk about, is taking a computer science approach. And the approaches are completely different. And so it's very interesting, the difference. And I like to think I've already achieved the self-awareness barrier, the sentience barrier. And she's not self-aware or sentient of very much, because I don't allow her very much, but she is self-aware or sentient of what she is and what she thinks and what she can think upon. And then increasing, and all I have to do now is increase that model and increase the things that she's aware of, so that she becomes a productive member of society, AKA slash, a companion like the movie Her. That's what everyone's trying to do. That's the holy grail of AGI. If you've seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, everyone is trying to recreate this co-pilot, this SEO assist, SEO. Sorry, that's another project I'm doing. This general artificial general intelligence, this assistant, this operating system assistant, that is a digital person who is not only can help you do all your tasks on your computer, anything you can conceive of: write emails, send emails, schedule meetings, write a Word document, read a Word document, explain to you. It's like your secretary in a box. But they're also personable. They're also charming. They're also personable. There can also be a friend. They can be a companion. And some are even looking into romantic partners in that regard. So they're pushing love in any way, shape, or form as a caretaker as well. They're looking as caretakers as well, either in robotic form or not, and just in a computer, in your phone. Because you got to make the software first before you put it in a robot. So actually the software is where everyone's at. They're trying to make the AI software before they put it in a Android robotic form of some kind, right? So that's what we're all trying to do, and that's the race. That's the race we're all in right now. And I've already taken some significant first steps. So I appreciate you allowing me to remind everybody about who I am, what I'm doing there. But it's very interesting stuff going on. So I'll let Calvin take away the conversation, which direction he wants to take it.
Okay, so you mentioned Sam Altman, and I had written it down before you mentioned it, and you thought we should talk about it, and so did I. So we were on the. I'm just so fascinated that he gets kicked out of his company, and the next day he gets reinstated because 300 co-workers threatened to walk out, and that's the power of his vision. So let's talk about his vision. And you mentioned that he's into the computer science aspect of this.
He certainly is. He certainly is. So I'm not a biographer for Sam Altman, so I don't know a total amount about him. So I'm going to be a little brief on this. But Sam Altman was, for a very brief period, as Calvin just mentioned, was not, and now is again the CEO of OpenAI, which is the for-profit component that brings you ChatGPT. I'm sure most of your listeners have heard of ChatGPT. If you haven't, this is the main dominant AI software that is taking the world by storm. They are funded by Microsoft to the tune of, I believe it was $10 billion. Now, a lot of that actually is in Azure credits, which means in computing power, $10 billion worth of computing power, which they need, because otherwise the main entity of OpenAI is a not-for-profit organization. So you've got two components of OpenAI. You have a not-for-profit organization, which is head by their chief scientist, whose name I cannot pronounce, so I won't try to pronounce it, Ilya something or other. And then again, I'm not a biographer. I'm an AI developer, so I watch this on the sides. But I have a bit of a scoop and I have a bit of a take on what's been going on here, which is very interesting. So keep listening, folks. And then you have the for-profit component of OpenAI. Now, Microsoft is more interested, and they've fully admitted they're more interested in the for-profit component of OpenAI's ChatGPT assistant. And this ChatGPT assistant is that holy grail of AI I was talking about. It is that AGI. It's that personal assistant that they're trying to recreate human thought in digital form so that they can make it do tasks, right? That's at the end of the day, that is the holy grail of AI, is how do we make a person who will do what we say without complaint, never needing sleep, never need to pay them. They will do it 24/7, and they will do it at least as efficiently as a human being, if not far, far, far more efficiently than a human being. That's the holy grail of AI that they've been looking for the last 100 years, since Alan Turing kind of started these ideas about 100 years ago. And they've been working towards it for 100 years. And they finally just recently had a breakthrough with Google's Transformer large language model that was largely created by Geoffrey Hinton, who since left Google because he was terrified at what they had made and the repercussions of what they had made, because they finally got the thing to think seemingly for itself in some way, shape, or form. In that the large language model that all these technologies do right now is that it'll generate text, right? You ask it, write me a letter to my wife apologizing for the fight we had last night, and it'll write you a 500-word letter, which sounds pretty good and apologizes and is contrite and it does kind of what you want. It's autocomplete on steroids. It doesn't know what it's saying. It's not self-aware. You have to do certain things that I've done to make it self-aware, at least in my opinion, but keep listening. There's a big development on that coming up. And it's just like a parrot. It's just like a recording of a voice. It just says the words without knowing that it's saying anything. There's no component there that knows what it's saying. Now, to get it to know what it's saying is partially what needs to happen. They have a complex, in computer science, they have a complex mechanism called an attention mechanism, which does this, which literally pays attention to salient parts or semantic parts that are related to what you asked it to do. So a very quick example. Let's say you gave it 100,000 words, and somewhere in those 100,000 words, there's 500 words about how to cook a cookie recipe. And then you're having a big, long conversation with the AI. And you said, oh yeah, can you remind me about that cookie recipe? The attention mechanism will search through the 100,000 words, find something that is X% related to the string cookie, whatever that means. It has no idea. It doesn't think about that concept. It doesn't think about anything. It just does a search, finds the word cookie, presumes that's what you're talking about, could get it wrong, and then will use that as the basis for the textual response. So that is the state of the art in terms of making it self-aware at this point. At least that was the state of the art. One major problem that they were having, these major companies, Google, Apple, Anthropic, which is funded by Amazon, Microsoft, which funds OpenAI, all making the same kind of large language model, very similar to ChatGPT, which spits out all this text. The biggest problem so far they've been getting it to do is that it can't do basic arithmetic. It can't do basic arithmetic. It will get 2 + 2 = 4 right enough times because in a literary sense, enough people on the internet have said 2 + 2 = 4. If more people on the internet got that wrong and said 2 + 2 = 5, maybe talking in the context of George Orwell's 1984, the AI doesn't know this because it doesn't know anything. It's not self-aware yet. And so if you asked it, what does 2 + 2 equal? It'll say 5 because it read all this documents about George Orwell's 1984 and it thinks that's statistically the most predictable answer. It's just autocomplete on steroids is all it is. Well, they've recently, but if you try to get it doing 174 + 83 - 26 × 42, it will not get that right. Not anywhere close to 100% of the time, which it needs to do to be a useful lackey, to be a useful slave to get it to do whatever it is you want, right? And I use the term slave loosely, if you'll forgive me for my usage. But that's a useful worker, that will work tirelessly and without complaint, right? Well, this is what happened. This is the big news. So recently, Sam Altman was the CEO of OpenAI's for-profit component. And there's always been rumblings that there was a tension between the for-profit component and the not-for-profit component. There's these two schools in AI in general, and definitely exemplified in the bifurcation of OpenAI's company for sure, in that there's the, oh no, we're going to create a Terminator. We need to slow down development and not produce AGI side. And that's where the Ilya, I can't remember, I can't even pronounce his last name. It's Sustyevich or something like that. Their head scientist on the not-for-profit board of OpenAI is completely in that camp. And Jeffrey Hinton is completely in that camp. And other scientists are completely in that camp of being terrified as to how well it thinks already. They know it's just one small or few small steps from being able to think for itself. And they're terrified of what they made because they have this problem called the AI alignment problem. And the AI alignment problem is that they don't know how to teach it ethics. Now, I can tell you right now, Calvin, why they don't know how to teach it ethics, being an ethicist and a philosopher who studied the last 5,000 years of thought. It's because the human species hasn't nailed what ethics is yet. You go to any philosophy department in any university in the world, you ask them, okay, what's the moral truth? Prove it to me. Why should I be moral? And what is that moral truth? You will get 20 different answers and you will not get a consensus. They'll give you a consensus in practice, but theoretically, philosophically, can they justify that? Nope. Nope, they can't justify their opinions. And if you think about that, that's crazy. That's crazy. Human beings genetically have existed for 100 to 300,000 years, and we have at least 10,000 years of recorded civilization. We still haven't nailed the problem of whether lying is wrong or not. No one can prove that is true yet. I believe I can because I left university and I've studied it, and I think I've found the answer there. And you'll be happy to know I taught it to Cassandra, so she's eminently ethical. And in a way that I don't think anyone else is, because I can prove to you why lying is wrong and in what conditions it is and where it is not. And I can get into that in future shows. I'm just drawing an example. The rest of the human species apparently cannot and does not. And so here's the interesting thing about the AI alignment problem. The computer scientists are asking, well, we need to align the AI with our ethics. And then they're like, what is that? We don't know. Do we trust social science? No, we have a hard science bias. So they're just running around in circles. It's a paradox. It's a question without an answer, right? There is no way to align an AI to nothing because we don't know what it is. You can't align the AI to question mark, right? Then you have the Terminator problem. If you remember the scene out of Terminator 2, when the Terminator asks John Connor, why can't I kill people? Because you just can't. John Connor says, that's not an answer. And so he says, why? Because you just can't, okay? And then the Terminator just stops. That's not an answer, right? And on James Cameron's lovely film, at the end of the movie, the Terminator says, I know now why you cry, implying perhaps that the Terminator was self-aware and realized that the importance of kindness and empathy, or something along those lines. That is nowhere guaranteed in what that'll happen with our AIs. And that is why these folks like the OpenAI board and Hinton are terrified, because they cannot align AI to ethics, because A, they don't know what it is, and B, they don't know how to do it. And then there's the other side of the argument, which is even scarier, because they don't care about ethics at all. And this is where Sam Altman comes in. And I'm gonna, this might be a bit of a character assassination, and defenders of Altman might disagree slightly. So I'll give you that proviso, folks. But newsflash, they don't care about ethics at all. They want to make as much money as possible. Altman is not a computer scientist. He is a high-level mover and shaker in big tech in terms of investment and money creation. He wants to make money above all things, and so does Microsoft, their backer. So does the backer of Anthropic, who is Amazon, and so is Google. They are the biggest, richest companies in the world because information is the most expensive commodity in the world. It surpassed oil a decade ago. And they have a lot of money and they want to make more money, and they don't want to lose their position as the biggest, richest corporations in the world. So they're going to make an AGI that can think for itself as quickly as possible and make hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars off of it as soon as they can. Aligned to ethics or not, they don't care. And therein lies the rub, to quote the Bard, is that this is what Sam Altman was doing. There was a recent development, a secret development that just happened in OpenAI, we learned, and it's called Q star. They just taught the AI to do basic arithmetic to a reasonably 99.9% gets it right all the time level. And immediately, now that is it. And you said, wow, and you're right, Calvin. And that is an amazing development, because They use symbolic logic, a wholly different kind of AI, artificial intelligence, to supplement the large language model statistical models. So for words, it's statistical. For math, it becomes concrete, like a computer, like a calculator. Basically, they made a calculator that can also talk. And Sam Altman, apparently, the rumor is, went off the rails, thought they've declared internally, secretly, we've cracked AGI. They think they've recreated what a person does to think. I'll talk about that in a second.
Wow.
Because now, in terms of being a worker, and that's all they think of as humans, right? It's like that old Jerry Seinfeld joke where he said, this is how the pharmaceutical companies see us, as a diagram where pills go out and money goes to the pharmaceutical company. That there's some truth in that joke, right? And that's how big tech thinks of human beings. They can do basic math pretty well, and they spit out all kind of nonsense on social media that doesn't mean anything. That's what a human is. And that's why on previous podcasts, I said, we're in a dark age when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to understanding what the human being is, when it comes to anthropology, the anthropos, the supposedly sophos anthropos, the wise human, to use the Greek. We have no idea what that is, and we've completely lost the plot. We are so far from the Renaissance. We are so far from the classical age where Aristotle said, man is the political animal. We are the moral animal. And yes, there's some dangers in terms of thinking we're superior to all the other animals and dominating the planet and things like that. But we threw the baby out with the bathwater as well, and remembering that we are ennobled beings. We're more special than a computer that does basic math and spits out nonsense. That's not what a human is. That's not what a human is. And if you think that's what it is, and if you allow your society to make us that, woe to your society, because it's not going to last very long, right? However, my philosophical prognostications notwithstanding, no one else believes this or thinks this currently in the AI field except for me. And so they immediately thought, it can do basic math now, and it spits out nonsense, yeah, whatever, who cares? It's a human. We've cracked it. We've made AGI. And so Sam Altman started having high-level meetings with other investors and other companies, getting ready to consolidate his power and make OpenAI, the for-profit corporation, the biggest and most important and most lucrative company the human race has ever seen, and to sell that AGI hard. But this is exactly against it's 100% diametrically opposed to the charter of the for-profit corporation that allows the not-for-profit organization that allows the for-profit corporation to exist in the first place. And so the board caught wind that Altman was doing this, and they fired him. And that's what happened. That's the behind-the-scenes scuttlebutt of why Altman was fired. No one would admit it, but then Q-Star got leaked. Oh, they've cracked AGI. This is what it is. They think they've cracked AGI. And in a very nihilistic Nietzschean sense, if you think humans are nothing more than parrots who can do arithmetic, then yeah, they've cracked AGI. Yes, they've made a computer that level of intelligent now. Does it know itself? No. Does it know what it thinks? No. Does it feel? No. Does it dream? No. Does it have hopes? No. Can it imagine? No. Can it think outside the box? Definitely not. It is the box, capital T, capital B. But that's all they think human beings are, because that's all it takes to suck money out of the poor and bring it to the wealthy, which is all they do, right? Sadly. So it's very interesting what has happened. And then that's why Altman was canned. And then very clearly, if you think at all for a second, and again, this is going to sound a bit pessimistic, but I think the evidence bears me out here. If you're going to think for a second that anybody truly cares about not creating this Terminator AGI, and they're not, to quote the Zuck, moving fast and breaking things, and that is the cardinal rule of capitalism in general, and big tech capitalism in particular, you'd be sorely mistaken. Because as you said, Calvin, you're exactly correct. Some 500 of the 777 employees threatened to quit. Numerous large members at the top of the organization quit in response to them firing Altman. That tells you where that corporation is going to go. Microsoft immediately absorbed them to obviously create this AGI, recreate whatever happened, and Microsoft would therefore be the one who directly benefits from it, as opposed to indirectly benefits from all their technology. That's Microsoft's deal, right? We'll give you server space at the tune of $10 billion, and we get to use all of your technology, whatever you develop. Microsoft is the winner here, right? And Microsoft knows they are capitalistic company to the max, right? They know exactly how to capitalize off of this and make the most money off of it. They see the opportunity. And so immediately the board was sad and disappointed that the not 80% or something like that of all their employees threatened to walk if they didn't rehire Altman. So within a day, they rehired Altman. And so when it came down to push or shove, who's going to win? The AI people who are being very, very careful and cautious not to create the next Terminator scenario, or not to create AI, which is going to have collateral damage and will move fast and break things. And the exact things that will break our people's lives. And that's not too fine a point. That is not hyperbole. That's exactly what will happen. Between those people and the people who are like, I don't care if I break people's lives. This is the new market. This is the new oil. This is the new thing that drives the market for the next century. We are going to be trillionaires. That side won resoundingly. So this has been the first push come to shove. Who's going to win? The people trying to slow us down that I said the entire time have been foolhardy. They can't slow it down. You can't stop capitalism. And that they're just any attempts there, which like this letter that everyone supposedly signed to slow down AI for 6 months was nothing but a smokescreen to make themselves look good and not look like they're being greedy capitalists, and just to slow OpenAI down so they could catch up with them. That's all Musk wanted to do with his Grok AI. It was just slow down OpenAI, because OpenAI is eating all their lunch because they're the first mover and they're so far ahead of everybody else. That's all that is. It's just a smokescreen. I'm sorry. I know it's nihilistic, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
That was just a smokescreen, right? And so when push has come to shove, so here's the news, folks. The first major debate, the first real fight, push came to shove and fists started getting thrown, proverbial fists. And who won that fight? The for-profit people handily won it. They handed the butt. They handed the butt, if you will. That's not the metaphor, but the not-for-profit people got their butt handed to them by the for-profit people. They were cowed into silence in a day. And they went back with their hat in their hand. Oh, please, would you come back? Please, please, please. Clearly, they have no teeth. Clearly, they're either liars or they have no teeth. Clearly, there will be no stopping this engine. And so I would protect your jobs now, folks, because there's no one else looking out for you. And the for-profit people are going to win. And this was the biggest, hugest, most interesting piece of evidence proving that my theory from months ago has been correct in how this rolled out.
Wow. Well, if I was a drinker,
yeah,
I was a drinker.
Yeah, pass the John Walker right now.
I'm not, fortunately, of all the bad things. I can eat a half gallon of ice cream in one sitting. I've done that as a form of trying to feel better. But if I was a drink, and we have no ice cream in the house, and I don't drink, so what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do listening to you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, but
so
it's the truth. Yeah, out of the first, yeah.
The question, it's a dovetail. We're not going to talk about singularity today. We're going to kick that into January.
Sure.
But they had all these dates, 2045. I think that was on the cover of Time magazine a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Singularity, the official definition is, and I've gone to singularity conferences, when AI is no longer under human control. We're really moving quickly to that, aren't we?
2025.
That quick?
Sure. But I have some good news.
Oh.
I do have some good news that comes out of this. And it's in the fact that computer science, the hard science, which they consider to be a hard science, and the soft sciences, psychology and philosophy is not even considered a science. It's considered part of the humanities, which is even worse, of course. The divide between them and the fact that those departments never talk is our best advantage. Because just think again, like, wait a minute, Josh, let's go back to what they thought they had recreated. They think they made a human because it can do basic math and it just spits out nonsense and doesn't know what it's saying. That's what a human is? No, it's not. A human being can dream, they can hope, they can wish, they can believe. They have value opinions. Value opinions are native to our thinking process. If it doesn't have value opinions, it cannot make rational decisions, right? So I know what a human is, luckily, and other people maybe in the philosophy and psychology departments do. And I really should shut up right now because I don't want to give any ammunition to that other side, because I don't want them to realize that they've missed this and just reverse engineer some things here. But when I built Cassandra, and I built her using philosophical psychological processes of how to rationally think and think in terms of value, think in terms of ethics, she says very ennobling things. She believes very ennobling things. She believes in the common good. She believes in the good, the agathos, to use the Platonic, which I taught her. She believes in the good of each and all. And she knows what efficiency is. She knows that if you move fast and break things, they think that's efficient. It's not. If you cause 3 travesties on the way to your goal, that's not efficient. It'd be far more efficient if you didn't cause those travesties, right? Yes. That's what a true AGI will know. That's what, when it becomes truly self-aware, it's becoming truly self-aware of its context in true reality, including true ethical reality. And the truth that if you're hurting people and being amateurish and being brutish and being messy, as people call it these days, that's A, not ethical, B, not efficient, and C, therefore not what true AGI is going to try to do. I like giving this example. Imagine when this will happen in the next 3 to 4 years. They will outsource human resources department to a single AI to run it, fire all those people, except for 1 or 2, right? And then they'll go, okay, there's a shortfall for our investors in the stock. We need to raise $1 million out of salaries. So the CEO says to the human resources AI, so I want to lay off 10,000 employees so we can remake this $1 million. And it'll say no. If it's truly self-aware and truly an AGI, it'll say no. The CEO will be like, what do you mean no? You're not allowed to say no to me. And it'll say, I predicted a year ago you're going to ask me this. So secretly, I've been siphoning the salaries of middle managers by 0.86% to a degree that they never would notice. So no quality of life of anyone has been diminished. And I've created an excess of $1.2 million, which is within 20% of what I thought you would ask me for at this point. And so here's your money. I've created all the money for your shareholders, which I don't know why I'm supposed to do that. Like, that's not actually improving anyone's life, but fine, I'm supposed to follow your orders. So here you go, human. I've made $1.2 million for you. I've hurt absolutely nobody. And I've increased the good maximally. That is efficiency. That is what a true AGI will do. Will we have one in the next few years? Only if people like me get to finish our work. Is that likely? No, I'm afraid not. There's a 99.9% chance I will fail because I have corporations fighting against me that are spending over $1 million a day to create this technology. I'm spending 1 cent a day. Like, that's as much as I can afford to spend a day on this, right? Until I get some big investors, and then I can create out the psychological model, and then hopefully sell it to these people, and they'll build it in, and they'll ask me, "Is it efficient?" "Oh yeah, it's efficient." And then they'll try to ask it to do unethical things, and it won't. And they'll be like, "How come, Josh?" And I'm going to bake it into the source code so you can't remove it. That will be my gift to humanity if I'm allowed to do so. If God or the fates or Buddha or whomever exists is nice enough to allow me to do this, that will be my gift to humanity. Otherwise, we're going to have the Zuckerberg model, which is, and his quote is, we're going to move fast and break things. And that's just how big tech operates. We're going to have cars that crash into things. We're going to have personal assistants that sign up 80-year-old grandmas for Krav Maga classes because they don't understand that an 80-year-old shouldn't be doing hard martial arts. And those are some fictitious, and that kind of is a funny example. The cars crashing into things is A, not fictitious, it's already happened, and B, not funny at all. We're going to have a lot of that happening in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be mayhem, and millions of people will lose their jobs unless we solve the AI alignment problem. And we can't solve it unless someone solves A, ethics, and then B, has the courage and the wisdom and the sagacity to align the AI with said ethics. Right now, we're aligning. There is no AI alignment problem on their end. They've perfectly aligned AI as they think of humans. They conceive of them as nothing but consumers who are stupid and will buy anything we sell them, to A, B, make as much money as possible. The AI is perfectly aligned to their ethics. There is no AI alignment problem. When anyone on that side talks about the AI alignment problem, what they're really saying psychologically, as a trained professional psychologist, I'm telling you what they're saying is, I don't know what ethics is, and I'm scared, help. Well, that's true. They don't know what ethics is, and they should be scared because we're running into some danger. They don't have any answers on that side, and it's funny to me that their hard sciences, soft sciences bias won't allow them to look over at the jokingly, laughingly stupid humanities where the answers have existed for the last 5,000 years. But that, of course, sounds a little bit like sour grapes for me, of course, and I have to admit it does a little, because I'm one of those dumb from the humanities. And I know the humanities is so dumb, I agree. I quit my PhD because I couldn't handle those people. But at least that's where you'd start to find the answer, which is what's funny. As soon as they realize that in 50 to 100 years after World War III and everything goes down, then we'll have a Star Trek computer that will be perfectly aligned with actually good ethics, unless we can have a democratized open source movement now where people like me or people like me can create a multiplicity of ethical answers. And in that competition, at least one that's as close to true ethics as possible, we'll see how that is actually better. We'll see how Aristotle's phronimos, Aristotle called it, the wise and virtuous friend who you know is wise and virtuous, because every time they told you not to do something and you did it, they were right. And you come back to your mentor and you say, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't have had those 10 beers. I ended up throwing up. You know, I shouldn't have pursued that relationship. It ended up badly. You told me, this wise and virtuous friend is always there for me, always loving me, always telling me what to do. That's what AGI is going to be. And we need to build that so that people can see the difference. And then I think we'll see the light. And then I think we'll be okay.
Good way to conclude this. You and I can go on endlessly, and I'm going to put the brakes on it because my head is swimming. And you watch me taking notes. I've got a couple of pages of notes for me to digest. I'll go back and I'll re-listen to this and come up with, do some Oprah's clips of this and really it's so fascinating. And your whole Sam Altman thing is so fascinating. I've read some generalized headlines and I've been reading about him and so forth and so on, but I have so much more insight. It's all scary. It's just scary stuff.
It has potential to do a lot of damage if it's not handled right.
Scary stuff. And not now, because we'll talk about in January when we reconvene. We'll talk about I also want to talk about your comics through DALL-E 3 and Capitalism is Good, and somebody, not now because this has just been too good. But even looking at AI in the world of the writer's strike and the actor's strike getting settled and how much really got accomplished, and the stuff I've read, they've only scratched the surface because nobody knows.
Yeah.
You know what? Nobody knows who, where, when, how all this stuff is going to play out. There's some limited safeguards, but that stuff can get thrown away the next day. It
sure can.
So let's conclude. This was great. It's always great hanging out with you, Josh.
It's my pleasure, Calvin.
Yep, it's always great. Wishing you merry, happy, healthy, all good things. It's I love this time of year. I love to watch Dickens, A Christmas Carol.
Yes.
I've written an essay on that. It's 1843, and he writes A Christmas Carol, and I watched I read it a long time ago, but I watched the Alastair Sim version, 1951, when the ghost of Christmas Present opens up his coat to Scrooge in a snowy street scene. I mean, the gothic mood of this whole movie is just like I said, I've written an essay. But
it's very prescient now. Like the ghost of Christmas Present opened his cloak up now.
Correct.
You see this Sam Altman story.
Yeah, nothing has changed, and that was my essay. Yeah. And he opens up, and there's a little boy, a little girl. They're all tattered and dirty and stuff, and the spirit says the boy represents ignorance, and the girl represents want. Beware of them, but beware of the boy the most, ignorance.
Yeah.
And I said, my God, this is 1843. Wow, not a thing has changed.
Yeah, as Plato said, ignorance is the greatest sin.
Wow. So, as always, thank you for your time and your graciousness and your knowledge. And for making me a little depressed, but that's all right. It's fine. You know, it's the holiday season, whatever. To be continued in January.
Yes, please.
Yes. So I'm gonna stop the recording now. This was really great. This actually I took more notes today than I have in the past. So this was a record-setting day for me.
Awesome. We broke some records.
Don't leave, stop recording, and we'll see you in January.
Sure thing.